I've had some, ever since I've uploaded some videos of my X-MAXX onto YouTube, a couple people have commented and said, what, did I miss a build video? No, nobody missed anything. I didn't make a build video of this because it is a very long, drawn out process. So, in this video, I'm going to go over what you need to do to install this setup. This setup. The first thing you're going to have to do is the Castle XlX just comes with these two connectors, and it doesn't come with any connectors, so you're going to have to buy some connectors. I honestly recommend these. These are the Castle 6.5 millimeter polarized connectors. They can handle 200 amps constant. Castle says you can use Ultra Deans, but this ESC is, when you first open the box, it actually says you get a warning of it pulls at least 200 amps. Well, that's not actually true. I've done my data logging from it. I haven't done it with the new gearing, which is 5350. I'm actually sort of curious what kind of amperage that's pulling, because it's having to do more work, but I digress. You're going to need to get, of course, I recommend getting 5 packs of these connectors. They are, shit, what part number? I have no idea. Shit. But on the back it says 6.5 millimeter connector rating, 13 gauge to 8 gauge wires, up to 200 amp current. Soldering heavy gauge wire requires proper tools and skills. That's another thing that you're going to need to look into. Do you have a hot enough soldering iron? Do you have, you're going to need about 60 watt soldering iron, because this 8 gauge wire takes, basically it wicks away a lot of the heat. So when you're trying to solder the connectors in place, a lot of the heat is going to go into the wire. And I know I still got to cover up some of these ends with some liquid electrical tape, because it actually says no more than, I believe, a 1/16 of an inch of wire should be showing. But I actually bought a digital soldering iron station. If you're going to stick with the stock radio setup, I went to my Spectrum DX4S. I love this radio. It has much more tuning capabilities on the fly, instead of having a phone in one hand and your transmitter in the other. And even then, the Traxxas app, it gives you some, like, one of the biggest things when you get an X-MAXX is you'll notice that it likes to do a front flip when you get on the brake. Well, with the Castle system, you can dial down the brake using the Castle link. In the box with the ESC, with a Mamba Max Pro and up, you will get a little voucher for a free one of these. It may look small, but it's very crucial to Castle ESCs. This is basically your programming card. This is known as Castle Link. A mini USB, not a micro, a mini USB plugs into the back of it, and then this plugs into the ESC wire. A way to make it so you don't have to, basically, I've got my, if you look into my receiver box, I've got all the wires nice and neatly contained, so I don't have a bird's nest. At first I had a bird's nest because I just wanted to check it out, test it, tune it, get everything done that needed to be done. But then things got, I mean, there was, every time I needed to get to my ESC wire, I had to fight all the wires to get the receiver box on. So I just bundled them up. I used a small zip tie and I zip tied them together, and I had already put the receiver to the very front of the box. So I was able to tuck the wires behind it. This is the SRS 4201 receiver. The 4200, the 4201, and the 4210 all do the same thing, but the 4200, I'm going to go over each part of this, so this may be a little bit of a long video. I apologize that I have long videos, but I like to cover everything. I don't like to fast forward through parts. But the 4200, you can only mount it on its base. You can't put it on its side. Why you would want to do that in a vehicle, I don't know. The 4201 you can mount on its side. So let's say you have a vehicle and you want to mount it to the side instead of flat down. You can do that. The 4210 you can mount all the way upside down. Again, why you would want to do that, I guess. So when you take out your box, if you have a flat top box, you can put it there so you can pull it out and access it. But also with the gyros, your box may be a little loose and you need it to be on a good foundation, because the gyros, if they're given any wrong information and you have either the steering gain set or the throttle gain set, it may give you more throttle, less throttle, or make your steering crazy. That's one thing that comes with these receivers is the active vehicle control, AVC. Basically what it does is it keeps the vehicle in a straight line. You can't use it racing because it's considered cheating. But for newbies, it's basically the same thing as Traxxas TSM, but better. And it all can be adjusted on the fly with this transmitter. You can get the DX4C, the DX3S, or the DX3C, I'm not sure. But the thing I like about this one is there's 5 different switches, a rotating switch, which that's not a switch, it's not a potentiometer, it's not a switch, but it basically gives you the ability to turn things up or turn things down with the turn of a knob. And then you have a button back here. That came at a perfect time. You also have a button back here. I actually set that for my timer. I gotta clean it up some because it's got a little bit of silicone oil on it. But like this one right here, I would have set for like with the XLX ESC, you have an auxiliary wire which you can set for 5 different parameters. I have mine set for torque control, so I can turn down the amount of maximum torque that comes out of this giant motor. You also have punch control, but I don't need that because this receiver comes stock with that. I mean, this transmitter comes stock with that, so I don't ever have to worry about that. And every one of these switches, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, are double throw, so that means they go up and down, all of them. And then this one rotates both directions. And then you have that one, and then you just have the simple button. So that's why I love this. They actually also have the DX4R, I believe. It's the Pro version. It lowers the wheel, and it makes it so you can move it to the opposite side if you're a lefty. Because some people are different. A lot of people have had problems using the stock TQI not ESC receiver that comes with it. It comes with a nice long wire. I think it's too damn long. I mean, my Spectrum is a hell of a lot shorter than that, and I get more range. But that also has to do with the transmitter. But what happens when people get this, and I'm going to have to give Andrew Natal credit for correcting me, but if you remove this and then plug in the Castle system. You're not going to be able to program it. You're not going to be able to, it won't give you full throttle. You won't be able to calibrate it because when you remove this, the receiver will basically go into a restricted mode, which will only allow 50% throttle. So you'll never be able to, in order to calibrate this, the ESC has to see full throttle from the transmitter. And if you stick with this and you take this off, I mean, you can keep this on and just tuck it in your receiver box, or just have it strapped to the side of your motor if you want to keep your telemetry. But honestly, the only telemetry I want with this, which I'm going to get the module for it, is I want to be able to know what the battery voltage is. With this stock, a lot of people have asked, why is it only showing 6 volts? Well, the red one is the voltage meter. It's plugged into the receiver. That's giving you your BEC voltage. Basically, what you're going to want to do is take this heat shrink off, cut right there, or solder a wire on right there, and then solder a wire to the positive side of your battery connector, and then connect it to this, and then you will actually get your, you're going to want to disconnect from right here, because you'll continue getting your BEC voltage. So you're going to want to cut right here and then solder this right here to a wire that is connected to your positive battery connector, the positive lead on your battery connector. So you will be getting your battery voltage and not your BEC voltage. That was another shortcut that Traxxas took with this vehicle. If you get the module, you're not going to get correct telemetry. You're going to get your motor temperature, but you're not going to get your battery voltage. Thankfully, it still does have the LiPo, the low voltage protection, the LVP, which basically shuts the vehicle down. If it gets overheated, it will also go into a restricted mode, and you only get half power. I personally don't like these. I've already sold my stock transmitter, and I'm selling this. So if anybody wants it, it's up for sale. Comes with everything. Everything's good as new. I just took it out and I don't use it. I use Spectrum. The motor itself, you're going to have to get either a Kershaw Designs motor mount or a Poseidon. I don't know if Poseidon makes the motor mount, but they have a very nice looking motor mount to mount these giant motors to. I personally like the Kershaw because not only is it mounted at the bottom, it also has this top brace that goes into the inner cage that gives even more rigidity. It's connected at 6 different places. The very rear bolts are actually bolted into the aluminum plate. The bolts closer to the front actually utilize nuts. I don't understand why he did that, because it would be a lot easier, especially if you need to remove the motor assembly. In order to do that, you have to remove the pinion, and I'm going to get to a second how you set your mesh with a pinion this big, because a lot of questions I get is, how do you tighten the motor down with the pinion in the way? A lot of people say drill into the pinion. Well, unless you have a balancer, this motor can spin on 8S up to 45,000 RPM. If you have an unbalanced pinion this size and the weight of it, you may start throwing out bearings inside your motor. What else? I believe that's pretty much it. When you get it, at first I had all the wires just wrapped around up top, but I eventually cleaned it all up, and when I have everything done, it looks like this. So it's a very clean installation. I still have my Castle 2028 fan flipped over because you don't push air on to something hot. You remove air from something that's hot because cold is the removal of heat. So that's why, I mean, I still have to do it to the ESC because the ESC is blowing air onto the ESC and all the electronic components. You want it to suck the heat away. So you're definitely going to need some connectors. You're going to need to buy some extra Castle. You can buy some from Castle, but some extra 8-gauge wire. I just bought some for a high-end audio system, and it needs to be about the same length. But one thing that the XLX comes with from the factory is cat packs. A cat pack, what it does is, with a brushless motor, since it's 3-phase, you have what's called voltage ripple going to the batteries. The data log actually shows that. You never want the voltage ripple to be more than 5 or 10% higher, more than 5 or 10% than your actual voltage. So 5 or 10% of this is, I'm going to round up, a 25 volt system. That would be, let's do some quick math, 25, about 4 volts. You don't want to be even close to 3 volts. This keeps it below, the cat pack keeps it below 1 volt. So it really reduces the voltage ripple. That is what a cat pack does. It reduces the voltage ripple, which can damage LiPo batteries. You're also going to have to solder Castle connectors not only to your batteries, but also to your chargers. So that's why you're going to need more. I still have several packs. I have packs for new batteries, because I'm getting more batteries today. I'll be ordering them. As for how to get to this right here, I will show you. There's 2 things you got to do. One, you have to make an Allen wrench that'll fit. You'll have to set your mesh, but it's really hard to do it, especially if you go to a 46, because your pinion, I mean, I can move my pinion over the slipper assembly, but it still gets caught up a little. Especially if you have a correct mesh, because the teeth are about, if you get the mesh set correctly, and just for anybody that wants to do this gearing, with the 5350 gearing, you basically have to pull the motor all the way to the top, and then lock it down. Let me find my Allen wrench that I use for that real quick. Oh, come on, I know you're in here somewhere. Oh, if I can't find it, I can make another. But basically, you take a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench and you cut down the short end as short as you possibly can, so it will fit between the pinion and go into the motor mount bolt, so you can set your mesh. Why I can't find mine, I don't know. Ah, here it is. See how that's cut very short? That's so I can get in there and tighten down my motor mounts. Like, even with the pinion right there, that close, I can get into the bolts and loosen or tighten them. I'm not going to loosen them, but that's how I do it. But that's a lot of people. Sure, you could drill into the pinion. That will make it a lot easier. But if you do that, you need to balance it. What am I forgetting? Oh, if you go this route, you're definitely going to want to change your diff gears from the stock diff gears, which I actually have those. I don't have a picture of the other diff gears, but these are your stock diff gears. This is the ring gear. you can definitely tell that this is cast. I don't want to pronounce his name, but the very first person to have an X-MAXX outside of people that work at Traxxas. I'm not going to say how he got it or anything, but he got one early. He was the very first person that I know of to already break the. You're going to want to get the spiral cut, hardened diff gears, because with this much power, parts are going to break. You're going to want to get Fastenal CV pins. That's the pin that connects the dog bone to the stub axle. But if you remove your pinion and your ring gear, you will actually see that only about 75% of the teeth mesh up. You can't see it with a camera, but if you remove yours, you'll actually see a shiny part on the very inside of the ring gear, and that's basically where there's no wear. It's shiny because nothing has been running on it. The spiral cut gears, instead of each gear locking in completely, the spiral cut gears, each tooth slowly contacts the entire surface. I say slowly. When it's spinning, it's not doing it like a latch. It's sort of a circle, so I'm not sure if it's the outside. I'm pretty sure it's the outside contacts first, and then slowly all the load goes to the inside, and then the entire gear, and then slowly the outside is let go of, and then the inside. Now the pinion gears are breaking instead of the ring gears. Because his ring gear was fine, his pinion gear had a broke tooth. Basically what happened was he was doing a wheelie, and he got on the brakes very hard. The front end came down hard, and that sent a lot of load to the front diff gears, snapping a tooth. You can't do stuff like that. You can't do abrupt jolts to any gear assembly, or you're going to break something. That's how things get sheared. I can't believe that they actually use pins in the, if you take your spur gear assembly out, which if you have X-MAXX, you're eventually going to have to do that. I did find out a better way to remove the spur gear assembly. All you have to do is take off this, and then you can pull it out from the back instead of having to remove the entire motor. I had tried that in the past, but it didn't work. But that was with the 54 gear spur gear. 54 tooth spur gear. With a 50 tooth or 46 tooth, it does just slide right out the back. It's a little tough with the cage in the way, but you also have to realize this cage gives extra structural stability. The Andrew Natal, he actually did a 5th scale modification to add a 5th scale servo to the X-MAXX. Basically, you have to cut the receiver box off of the chassis. You have to modify, you have to get some aluminum, and you have to modify the chassis some. It's not nearly as hard as his first attempt, but you need aluminum plate to hold this. Basically, if you were to take the receiver box off, the servo's right there. So that's why you cut the servo box off, and you can install a Savox 5th scale servo. You can run it with 6 volts, but a 5th scale servo is supposed to be ran on 7.5 volts. More speed, metal gears, not plastic, and Savox. Need I say more? Savox makes some of the best servos, in my opinion. They make titanium gears. They make brushless. But if you're looking at a brushless, titanium geared 5th scale servo, you're looking at about $250. Is it worth it? Yes. You get what you pay for. Brushless will give you more speed, more power. but like I said, you get what you pay for. A lot of people ask me, what do I have my punch setting set for the XLX? I'll just go through it all. My throttle setting is 100% full throttle. My reverse setting is 50% reverse speed. My punch setting is 0. I do not have any punch control on this because, like I said earlier, I can use my transmitter. Those of you that are going to use your stock, you may want to set in a punch control, but also, if, like, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but with this ESC, you not only have the ESC wire, but you have an auxiliary wire. The auxiliary wire goes to a third channel, and as long as it's not just an on-off switch like the Traxxas remotes, the Traxxas radios, if it can be adjusted, I said earlier, there's 5 different parameters that can be set. Like I said earlier, mine's set for torque control. So I can turn down the amount of torque that's coming, basically how much torque the motor produces. What else? Last part. If I'm going to give this myself, in order to program it with your Castle Link, you have to unplug the. If you need to read the manual, one thing, because this is a very expensive and very complex ESC. You're going to have to unplug the ESC wire along with the auxiliary wire to program it with the Castle Link, or by the Castle Link Pro Duo, I believe it's called. Basically what that does is it plugs into the you have 2 connectors that plugs into the receiver, and then you plug the ESC, and basically if you were to use a Y connector like this but reverse, have the 2 I believe these would be these are female ends, so if you were to have 2 male ends on this side and a female end, and then if you wanted to plug it in, it won't work. Basically what the Castle Link Duo does is it interrupts the signal coming from the ESC to the receiver. So it basically stops the signal, because like I said, if you have to remove the auxiliary wire. If you don't, when you go to program with the Castle Link, you're going to damage, there's a possibility you can damage your ESC. That's why you have to remove the auxiliary wire. But with the Castle Pro Duo, you can have it hanging out the side, and you can keep your radio, your receiver box on, and not have to mess with all these wires and unplug wires from your receiver. And you just plug in your Castle Link, program it, and go. So you don't have to do all the things to get to your receiver. Like with the X-MAXX and this, I have to put the receiver box on. I have this coming out because I have extra fans plugged into this one, and my 5th scale lighting kit plugged into this one. I still have to modify my Dusty Motors cover with some what's it called? Spandex. Basically some spandex, so it will pinch around the wires tightly so no debris can get in. But it makes it easier to program it, especially if you program a lot. And with this ESC, you have the data log, and that's a very nice feature to have. So you know temperature, RPMs, all that good stuff. So for those who wanted a build video, I'm sorry that I didn't do an entire build video. From the time I got this, I got everything at 5 p.m. I got everything to do this at 5 p.m. I started, I got everything mounted up, and then I started soldering the next day. The soldering alone took 3 hours. Had quite a few batteries to do. Had to solder up the ESC. Overall, it took about a day. I could have took pictures along the way, but I'll admit, I was too excited about getting the motor and ESC put into place so I can start having fun. I started with a 37 tooth pinion gear. That's basically equal to an 18 tooth pinion gear because this motor is 800 kV. The stock X-MAXX motor is 1600, so you're cutting the kVs in half. So you're going to have to double your pinion size to get the same top speed, but you have more torque than you will ever need. That's why I strongly suggest, I can't wait till Kershaw comes out with their diff gears, because I'm going to get theirs as well. The diff gears, when they first came out, were available only from Traxxas for $45 because they wanted to see, okay, are they going to break? Not any broke, except one person yesterday. And today is March 31st, 2016. He messaged me and he was pretty damn pissed. But everybody's awaiting Kershaw. What are they going to do? They're also going to be coming out with a LCG chassis. That is completely, the chassis itself is aluminum. So I'm going to be getting that myself because I want to put on some aluminum parts. But I've always gone with the motto, don't put aluminum on plastic, because what would you rather replace? An A-arm or a bulkhead? What would be easier to replace? So that's pretty much it for this video. If I missed something, hit me in the comments. I think I pretty much hit everything in this video about how to install this. I didn't get a ESC mount. I made my own. All you have to do is cut. You're going to have to measure between the cage. I use zip ties to hold mine in place. I think the Kershaw has to use 2 zip ties in the back, but it also utilizes these 2 screws right here, like it does, like the motor mount does in the rear, to hold the ESC down. But I just utilize some 60-pound zip ties, and I use 4 of them to hold the ESC in place, and it's a very clean, very sturdy setup, and I love it. I would never go back to the stock ESC. It definitely wouldn't go back to the stock ESC because that is a firebomb, a ticking firebomb, because even if you put the new X-MAXXs that are coming out have that fusible link, they are blowing left and right because it just can't